Hi, good morning, and welcome to a little virtual garden tour at Hidden Creek Homestead. It's a morning in early June, and if times were different, you would be able to come here with me and look around. But here we are. So this is a third of an acre urban lot in Asheville, North Carolina. And when we got here about 2 years ago, all that you see here was pretty much a lawn with a couple of diseased cherry trees. And we set out to build soil and create different kinds of areas, following permaculture principles to grow as much food as well as other beneficial plants in this area. Really, the first thing you see when you enter our garden is this berry patch with blueberries and then strawberries as an ground cover. And those of you who know how much I love berries will understand why it's really the first thing. Besides, there used to be a pine tree here. The soil is naturally acidic, and the blueberries are starting to come in. Here are a couple of the different areas. This is what I call the front food forest, dominated by this big sour cherry. That was here when we arrived. Pretty much the understory is different kinds of shrubs, perennials, as well as annuals mixed in. Like here, the beans growing on a TB trellis that will form a nice little hiding place for our kiddo in a few weeks. Here we have alpine strawberries and Virginian strawberries, which are still producing and are so sweet. Comfrey, Egyptian walking onion, lovage, borage. The pollinators have been going crazy here this year. Cowpea and Jerusalem artichoke, which will be here for quite a while, I believe, producing food for us. And the greenhouse is, we've had it for less than a year and are really happy with what it's producing. Right now there are several cucumber plants, 3 tomato plants, 4 peppers and 2 eggplants, and we might just be on the cusp of having too much food growing here. It's possible that in a few days we won't be able to enter the greenhouse, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Next to the greenhouse is our dye garden. So many of you know I grow and use natural dyes. So here we have the neighbor's retaining wall made out of old railroad ties, which are treated with some pretty nasty stuff. So we don't want to grow anything edible, certainly not annuals, over here. But I figured we can grow natural dyes. So almost all of these plants, not the sunflowers, but everything else, yields some kind of dye or pigment. Here we have marigold in the front, Japanese indigo with the pretty pink flowers, madder in that box, zinnia in the back, and woad are these yellow flowers. And along with this back of the property, we created what's called a swale, growing only perennial plants here, like gumiberry, hazelnuts, elderberry, and autumn olive going forward. So they're all on a berm, sort of protecting this fenced-in vegetable garden. And now let's enter the vegetable garden. We put in these fences to keep out the groundhogs, which are always a bit of a presence here. This area is maybe 17 by 40 feet or so. And for a good long while, we first built soil, brought in tons of compost, double dug the beds, as well as did a lot of no-till gardening here. So it's doing pretty well. We've gotten a lot of food out of it already this spring. Brassicas and greens, a pretty new asparagus patch. And here's actually a kind of a Three Sisters guild in development: corn, pumpkins for squash, and beans. You can get your regular roots, and a row of tomatoes growing. The onions have done really well this year. And over here we start to see our other hot season crops. So melons, squashes, summer squash, garlic is just about ready to be harvested, fava beans, and some tomatoes, and the last of our peas. like I said, there are sort of three distinct areas: the front food forest, fenced vegetable garden, and then this area, for the lack of a better word, I call the backyard food forest. It's a range of different things with the chicken coop in the very back. So let's go back over here. So still in development, we have a pretty young peach tree right here, surrounded by a guild of vetch, comfrey, lemon verbena. Here's mint and young persimmon tree, which I'm really excited about. Here you get to see some of the swale perennials on the other side. So they are there. The elderberries are doing really well and should be fruiting later this year. These herb beds are built with urbanite, which is basically found and reused broken concrete. And behind it we have raspberries, black raspberries, and blackberries. A volunteer fig that's doing really well. We'll see if it fruits this year. And some very young apple trees that I grafted this year. So this, in the long run, should be our little mini apple orchard, I hope. Right now, a lot of what's going on here is a mix of annuals that I couldn't fit in within the fenced vegetable garden area. So we have some tomatoes, beans, fire circle, chickens. And lastly, this back area is sort of a big experiment right now. We often let the chickens out to roam here and scratch and kick. We'll have eventually 3 pawpaw trees here, and right now we're doing different things in the understory, including growing sunflowers right here on the southern side of the pawpaws, which will hopefully protect them from too much sun. Behind there we have a couple of golden raspberries and some more tomatoes, as well as a quinoa experiment over there by the compost pile. Yeah, thanks for watching. That's pretty much the highlights of our garden, and let's hope that at another time you could come in person and you can actually taste all the edibles and the fruit of the land together. Thanks.